G'day folks, Rod Moore from Learn to Paint TV and Learn to Paint Academy. Welcome to this week's episode of Learn to Paint TV. Got something a little bit different for you this week. Thought we might try painting some interiors just to give us a bit more variety in the subject matter that we choose. So I've got a little photo here that I've taken from my mum's kitchen. And as you can see, got this nice window in the background, this little vase with flowers and a few other bits and pieces in this subject, which make for an interesting subject for us to have a go at, and we'll mix it up a little bit and change it around to suit our purposes. But I thought it might, just create another challenging project for us to have a go at. Now, our canvas here is a 12 by 16 inch canvas, just on stretchers. And to start off in step one, I usually just use two colours, ultramarine blue and alizarin crimson, as our dark tone, just to map in those big shapes. So in this painting, what we've got is the wall and the window in the background, and then a kitchen bench, which is a timber kitchen bench. So I'm just mixing those two together just to get a nice dark. And for this drawing phase, get plenty of water into that. Make it a loose, ink-like consistency there. So we have this kitchen bench now. It runs kind of up that way to a corner, and then that corner runs down that way. So that means there's a wall there. Well, actually, maybe not. It may not be a wall. It might be the end of the bench, and that looks out. So I'll put a line there, and we'll just see. Now I'm going to put this window in this spot here, and I want the base of that to run parallel with the base of the bench there. Okay, now I'll put a little bit of timber sort of fret work around that window. And we'll run that. That's the glass section there. Okay, now it's a little bit overexposed, the light coming through the glass, and we're not going to see much out there, but we might put a little bit of foliage from a garden or something out there. Now, so our main jug of flowers is going to sit around about here. I'll put that in a minute. Before I do that, I want to just get in. There's this, what would have been a breakfast tray that is now being used as a storage we'll have a pile there with papers and things. So I'll worry about the papers and things later on. We'll just get the basic shape in there for the moment. And now we come to the jug of flowers. So I want that to sort of overlap the timber and the window, but really occupy that corner and leave some of the window free. So that jug is going to, so we're going to have a little bit of overlap. So what I'll do, I'll just get a little bit more red in our painting colour here, just so we can distinguish from what we've already done. So I'll get this jug in here, so top of it there. It's going to run down to a base which is going to sit around about there. Perhaps a touch wider. Has this just make that a little bit wider, actually, give it a bit of better shape. Now with that, so far we've got a shape of the window there, we've got the shape of the bench, we've got this little box here, and we have the vase here. There's not a lot to it so far. What we do have behind this is it's like a wicker. Be careful not to make this too big. It's like a wicker serving tray. I'll pop that in, So we're losing that corner of our window there, but we would have anyway. So we've now got foliage to go in here. Put some of that foliage up there like so. Don't try and get too fussy with this for the moment. And then we're going to put these flowers that can all run up into the air there. Okay. So my concern is this shape here, getting that right. It's got to just have the right look and feel to it. Okay, let's do step number 2 now. Now I'm going to start blocking in. I'm going to start off with the background color and tone to get that in right first. And I'm going to use a medium flat brush. Most of the brushes I use are flat brushes. They're hog bristle hair brushes. I've just dropped down to a medium one just so I can work around some of the details here. So we'll start off with the wall, the timber frame around the window and the bench. And then by doing that, we'll paint the negative shape of the actual key elements in this painting. So this wall is it's a yellow tone, but it's not a pure yellow. So I'm going to take a yellow ochre and white. Okay, I'll get a little bit of cadmium yellow in there and a pinhead of the red. And let's just see what we end up with there. Okay, so as I suspected, it's probably just a touch too much on the well, actually that could work. By the time that dries, I'll grey it back a little bit. I'm going to take a little pinhead of blue in there just to grey it, and I'll brighten it just ever so slightly, and I'll lighten it ever so slightly. Okay. So look, I've got big thick paint on here, right? I'm not going to muck around here. I just want to block in this paint in this wall. There's no point fussing with this. Use a bigger brush. I probably have gone down to too small a brush to be frank, but hey, I'll lighten it as it gets further away from our subject. And notice I'm just using a bit of a scrubbing effect. I'm going to lose those 2 power points. I don't know whether I want them there or not. So what I'll do now, as I get into this area where our main subject is and the sunlight's coming through the window, I'm going to add more cadmium yellow to punch it up a bit, just to brighten it all up. Okay, I'll put a few hints of it in here and there, but I want the main effect of that to be in this main subject here. Okay. Just try and get a bit of a feel for that shape of that serving. You can see my brushes are all fairly well used, fairly crusty, just slightly smaller so that I can work into this window frame here now. So I just want a nice dark effect for that window. So I'm not going to put too much white into that. Now notice I mixed the 3 primers I use, ultramarine blue, alizarin crimson, yellow ochre. And it's giving me sort of a murky tone. I'm going to push that more to the blue side. Okay. There we go. Something like that. Now we'll just try this and we'll come back to this a bit later on. But for the moment, just blocking in colour. And this is a key point that I think a lot of beginners don't get when they get to this stage. They think that they're trying to paint a finished painting. Not so, you know, don't try and finish it at this point. Just get some colour down and block in roughly the value, roughly the colour and the tone. Okay. I'm just running out of paint. Okay, now we're going to come to this bench top, which is a timber bench top. So I'm going to, that's our yellow for the wall. We need it to be darker than that. So we'll take our yellow ochre and red, mix those 2 together. A little bit on the red side, so I've got a bit more yellow ochre. And I'll just lighten that slightly, but it doesn't want to be as light as the walls. Okay, something like that would make a nice tone. Let's try that. Yeah, nice timber tone. We'll come back in and we'll add in some sort of timbery effects to it. higher through there. I think we need now to address that. So I'm going to make that a little bit redder and maybe just grey it back a little. Okay. Probably going to run out of paint there, but hey. So I'm just going to re-establish the shape of it. And it's just leaning up against the wall and blocking out part of that part of the window and so on. So this is just red. It's the same tone we just used. I've just made it a bit redder and I put a bit of grey into it. So this is the advantage of having a limited palette, especially just for the blocking in, that you can easily find the colours that you need and easily mix them. If I had 20 colours there, which a lot of beginners, and even though that sounds funny, that's the reality for a lot of beginners. You know, they go to the art store and buy everything and then they don't know how to mix anything or make any of it work together. And that's a mistake. And that's a mistake that I made, which is why I started to give consideration to these things. When I started out, you know, I went to the art store and got excited and bought everything. Only to find out that that wasn't what I needed at that part of my journey. What you need is to learn how to mix colour, mix paint, and limiting yourself to 3 colours is a great way to start to learn that. Okay. So the last thing we want to do on the blocking is just get some shadow tone happening here. We'll use our white and we'll get some of this blue and red in there. That's too much on the red side, so I'll push it blue. Okay. A little bit mauvey colour. I'll push it a bit bluer again. And I'll just paint that where the shadows are going to fall, just loosely. And just run that out and blur that in with the tabletop there. Do the same here. Now this isn't the end colour of these objects. Just getting this little bit of shadow in will help us to get our values pattern right when we get going in the last step. What was that again? That was like a magazine or something, so I'll just put a little bit of shadow there as well. Okay, so we're just getting a feel for it there. Okay, well, I think we've achieved our objective with the blocking. Got a nice little start happening. You can start to get a sense of this painting, and I think once we get going with it, it's going to work out to be a terrific little interior painting. And now our job is to let that dry off. I want this acrylic paint to be set hard dry, so that's going to take half an hour minimum to maybe a couple of hours. I'll go out and have a break, then we'll come back and we'll do step 3 of the More method of painting, where we start to pull it together, details, finishing touches, and the highlights. So I'll see you after the break. All right, welcome back. We're now going to do step 3 of the More method of painting, which is of course our details, finishing touches, and highlights. This has had a chance to dry off. It's settled down quite nicely. So I think the key for us here now is to start to bring this to life with a bit of work around the vase or the jug, and getting there some of these flowers and the other detail work in around the table there. So I'll start off with a small flat brush, just so we can get in some detail work. I'm going to use the ultramarine blue, alizarin crimson and the yellow ochre. That's our primary palette that we work with, and the cadmium yellow, and of course titanium white. So to start off with this, what we need is a couple of different mixes of the yellow. So I'll go yellow ochre and cad yellow initially. Okay, I'll mix that around and just see where that ends up. Okay, so that's just sort of a musty colour, which around about there is probably, it's probably a little bit too yellow ochre, so I'll put more cad yellow in there. Okay. Give that a try. That's a little bit better. That's probably our mid-tone value, around about there. Okay. And we can then lighten that off. So I'll lighten it off on one side, and that'll give us more of a lighter value of that same mix, which we'll put over here where it might be getting a bit more light. Like so. A little bit out on the handle. And then on the other side we can darken that. We'll take the blue and the red mix, which is our dark. We can just work that back in. It's gone a little bit on the murky side, so whenever it goes a little bit too murky, I just come in and I'll put one of the dominant colours in there. So I'll just pick it up using that cad yellow. Not as murky now, that's just a darker, dirtier version of that yellow we've been mixing. It's still a little on the green side, but we'll just pop it in and we'll see how that eventuates. Having those three colours there, of course, is going to give us a effect of having it three-dimensional. Overall, it's probably quite a bright yellow, probably a little bit too bright overall, but let's see when we've got the other. It's starting to get a nice bit of a feel of three-dimensionality to it. So now what I'll do, I'll take our ultramarine blue and I'll take a good chunk of the yellow ochre and I'll take another good chunk of the cadmium yellow, and we'll mix those two together. And we'll get that cadmium yellow in there. Gives us a sort of a mid-tone green. And what I want to do is just get in some foliage, overlaying it against, you know, the window there. And this is our dark of the foliage. We'll put in some lighter foliage in as well. Okay, so just an array of foliage in there, and then we'll take a little bit of the white, we'll take the rest of that cadmium yellow, so we'll lighten it and warm it up. And just pop in some of that foliage with a bit of highlight on it. And then we've got the little flower heads. Now, I've forgotten what these flowers are called. Maybe somebody can leave a comment and let me know. But they're sort of a little purpley maroon. So it's just the blue and the red and the white. See how easy this method of painting is? Simple, right? And these are, look, they're up in the air here. Probably need a little touch stronger against that white. So. And they've got these little heads on them. So I'll just pop those in here and there, get a little touch more blue in there just for variety's sake. That's a bit better, that's more that lavender colour that we were going for. So a few that have wound up over on this side. And notice I'm using a flat brush and I'm just dragging it down to get the shape of those little flower heads. This little tidy holder thing is our blue and our yellow. Okay. It is, this should be lighter than that. So let's just test. So, and I think what we'll do is we'll just mix up a dark. We'll just leave it open, even though it's in the photo showing it's piled high with stuff. For the moment, we'll just, put a dark shadow in there. And then we've got this sort of newspaper effect thing. So we want a grey, a light grey. And I'll just paint that surface in. Okay. Need to just address some of these shadows here, so I'm going to just get a little bit stronger with some of them. So best way to do this is going to be to get a fair bit of water on the end of it. And I've already got some greens and things here. We'll just see how they go. And don't try and paint these too neatly. Fortunately, it's all dry. Yeah, if you try and paint those too neatly, then it won't kind of look right. It needs to have a little bit of a randomness to it. And like everything we paint, we need to have a a dark yellow, ochre and red. Get a little bit of that. So I'm going for a slightly lighter tone here now, and I'm just going to put in some indications of some lighter patches here on the and it's a little bit of an opportunity just to tidy up, like that shadow there wasn't quite working, so I'll just tidy that up. Now this has got writing on it. We're not going to write it word for word, because that would be way too challenging. So I just picked up a purple, so blue and red, and we will try and get it similar. In fact, we've got it the same, so that's okay. On the newspaper here, we could probably put a couple of little details. Maybe a little photo. So, letting that bunch of flowers grow fairly wild there now. But that works, I think that's okay. So, I think for our, one of our very first little interiors, that's not a bad little starting point. It's a good little practice painting, good little demonstration painting. It pretty well represents and captures the feel of the photo. Maybe not exactly, but it comes close, and you can tell it's an interior. You can tell it's a window, a vase of flowers, and a few things scattered on the bench there. And it's a fun little painting, we do a lot of seascapes and landscapes. This is good to mix it up and try something with a little bit of variety. And this is a painting, anyone can do this. I mean, you've seen how I've done it. The steps are pretty simple. We've followed the 3 steps of the Moore method. Step 1, the drawing, getting these big shapes in place, okay? Pretty easy. Step 2, we blocked in colour. We didn't worry about the shapes and the details. Step 3, we came back and detailed and highlighted. And this is our finished result. And it's not a bad little painting. Fun little painting. And it's one that you can set up different arrangements in your own home, take photos and have a go at painting it, and you'll learn a lot by doing so. I've kept it loose deliberately because I like that feel. And as I mentioned earlier in the video, I was inspired by Margaret Ollie's works, and she uses a similar sort of style, quite a loose approach, and that's the sort of subject that she might have tackled as well. Hope you've enjoyed this week's episode. Have a go at this one. I think you'll enjoy it, right? I've certainly enjoyed bringing it to you. Make sure you check out all the other episodes of Learn to Paint TV. Web address underneath me here. And if you'd like a free course where I go into more detail about the Moore method of painting and our approach that we've shown you here today, then make sure you drop by the learntopaint.academy, www.learntopaint.academy, and look for the button there that says free course. Register yourself for that and come and have a go at our more in-depth course where I take you through everything you need to know about how to get started painting as a beginner. And look forward to seeing you next week on Learn to Paint TV. Cheers for now.